How we doing today? Today I want to talk to you about something a little different. Start off with Neil Young. Huge fan of Neil Young. As I was coming out of my metal phase, he was he was one of the guys I first really gravitated towards. There's an earnesty, a genuine article kind of about him that's so refreshing, an integrity, a sincerity. I mean, all those words have described Neil Young throughout the years. And Neil, for those of you who don't know his path too well, starts off in Canada, of course, Canadian native, which wasn't what got me into him. I just got into him because I discovered after the gold rush and some of those early records everybody knows this is Nowhere. And he really hit the mainstream with Harvest. 1972 with the Stray Gators, had a bit of a country twang to it, well written, well orchestrated, well produced songs. Neil's never been the greatest singer, but out of Buffalo Springfield, and then he does a few solo records, and he joins Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for a while, and kind of helps them create their landmark records. He tours with Stephen Stills and makes a record with him in '75, and leaving Stephen Stills a note saying "Eat a peach," middle of the tour. Neil was not one that could do something he didn't feel integral about, or if his heart wasn't in it, he just couldn't go up there and fake it, couldn't go through the motions. And I think that's part of what drew me to him, and part of why when I connected with jazz like I have, it was that same integrity, that same honest emoting that was so refreshing to me. Can't stand posturing. I can't stand boasting. Hip hop that does that, I'm pretty bored with pretty quickly. I just like someone who speaks from their heart and their soul. And jazz, of course, especially the black jazz music, really connects with me and my mindset and helps me have an appreciation for my role in this world and how blessed I've been. Not to say I haven't gone through some tough times, because we all do, but I mean, jazz certainly reminds me of how blessed my lot has been in this world. Neil, with the success of Stray Gators, which sold millions of copies, and is always considered one of the greatest rock records, classic rock records of all time, has a number of hits on it, from Needle and the Damage Done to Heart of Gold, Old Man, Take a Look at My Life. It's a great record. And again, the production is as good as a Neil Young record will ever be in terms of, I mean, it took Harvest Moon 25 years later, was it, to kind of replicate some of that same sound, and he used the Stray Gators again on the anniversary record. Harvest Moon also has a wonderful production. Unknown Legend's a great song. But Neil, in '73, follows that up with a record called Time Fades Away. And it was a live record from a tour, not with that Stray Gator band, with a different band of kind of anonymous players playing anonymous songs. And that's just how Neil was. He almost rejected his own fame right off the bat and said, you know what, I'm not going to go just cash in and play those songs. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to feel good about what I'm doing. So he does this tour, records it, puts it out as a record called Time Fades Away, and Reprise wasn't super pleased with that result. He was also legendary for having worked with Crazy Horse, a great rock rhythm and blues group. I mean, they had a lot of blues in them. When he plays with them, it's always harder edged. The early days of grunge, as many people would say. And most of the records he does with the Crazy Horse over the years are phenomenal. Rust Never Sleeps. Everybody knows This Is Nowhere. I mean, there's Sleeps with Angels. There's so many great records that he does with Crazy Horse that are just, you know what you're going to get when you get a Neil Young Crazy Horse record for the most part. In the 80s, there's like an exception or two, like Landing on Water, man, Crazy Horse on, or Life, one of those. And those were contractual kind of conflicted records. But that being said, Neil was just someone I just really gravitated to. And after he does Time Fades Away, Danny Whitten of Crazy Horse passes away. Heroin. Very sad. Neil really struggled with that. And then one of his favorite roadies, friends, also overdosed shortly after that, called Bruce Berry. And when he passed away, it was just Neil went into a downward spiral for a while, drinking a lot. And he records this record called Tonight's the Night. And it was lambasted by the critics when it came out. And it didn't come out when it was supposed to in '74. It came out in '75. and actually ends up coming out after On the Beach, the record I'm going to talk to you about today. But Neil made this record tonight that's just a stark, drunk, ugly, imperfect, out of tune, out of key. At one point he's singing, I'm singing this borrowed tune that I took from the Rolling Stones, realizing that the melody he was singing on this song was Lady Jane by the Stones. And he says it right in the lyrics, I'm singing this borrowed tune I took from the Rolling Stones, sitting here too wasted to write my own. You know, it was just kind of the place he was in. But it's a brutally honest and a painful but beautiful record. And it's since become a darling of the critics and is seen as one of Neil's high points, actually. And it's now usually on the Rolling Stone greatest 100 or 200 records of all time lists. But at the time, it wasn't received very well. And in fact, like I said, it took Reprise about a year and a half to even release it. In the interim, he worked on this next record without Crazy Horse called On the Beach. And it's melancholic. It's not nearly as raw and ugly as A Tonight's the Night is, or even Time Fades Away for that matter. But it's still very dark. It's still very melancholic. It's still kind of a bleak, distant, kicking a piece of rock down the beach. Like he's just he's not really celebrating on the beach. He's moaning. And it's blues inflected. And Neil was always kind of a bluesy inflected guy. And a number of the songs are even called Revolution Blues, For the Turnstiles, Vampire Blues, On the Beach, which is a gorgeous blues, Ambulance Blues, For the Turnstiles is a really cool song. There are songs in here about nuclear war and the threat of the Cold War. Vampire Blues is about sucking oil out of the ground, and that's the vampires. And Neil was very much an environmentalist decades before that became a thing. He was very conscious of that stuff. See the Sky About the Rain's this gorgeous, melancholic song. I see dune buggies coming down the mountain, 10 million dune buggies coming down the mountain, talking about this kind of resistance revolution. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but Walk On is a song about kind of continuing, pulling your pants up and continuing even though stuff is hard. But it's just one of my favorite records of all time. And I don't listen to it a lot anymore, but I still know every word to it. And I probably play it once a year or so. And I just really enjoy his place here. And then Neil kind of gets back on the horse, joins back up with Crazy Horse and records Zuma, which has the great Cortez the Killer, which is a song about, Hernan Cortez, the Spanish conquistador, killing all the Inca. And that's a beautiful song. And Powderfinger from Rust Never Sleeps. I mean, there's just a slew of songs. Cinnamon Girl, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, Down by the River. All those songs he does with Crazy Horse, man. There's it's almost like a set of encore songs. There's just so many great anthems in there that you just want to sing along to Powderfinger. The Thrasher, what a great song that is. So Neil's a guy that, he's not jazz in any sense of the term. But boy, he has some integrity and some honesty. And I don't think Neil gets on a stage very often and plays a song he doesn't want to play. He walked away from Crosby, Stills and Nash, which was going to be a huge... He was at Woodstock with them. People kind of forget that. And I don't think he wanted to be on camera, so when you see the footage, you don't see Neil on the stage, but he's there. You can hear him and singing and playing. And he's never been the greatest singer. I think it was always part of his insecurity. But he probably wouldn't be the artist he is if he had a great voice. He sings out of necessity, out of needing to expunge his feelings. And his records really encapsulate that really wonderfully. One of my favorite artists from that era. Just a wonderful musician who's a great player who, like I said, plays with a ton of blues in his feeling and his soul. And he knows about space and letting things ring out and repetition. He's not afraid to repeat a note over and over just to get a funk going with the band. And I'm not to say that they're a funky group, him and Crazy Horse, but they certainly have elements of that space and that pattern and that looping that rhythm and blues are orchestrated around. So if you're looking for something fun and different, something to listen to that'll kind of shake things up a little bit, here is Neil Young's On the Beach, a great record. So as Cafe kind of gets into its rhythm and things, I've been having time to kind of sort through some of the labels. I haven't had a chance to sort through much yet. Most of my Blue Notes, Prestige, Verve, Riverside, all those kind of labels, I have everything cataloged very neatly and organized. But there's still a lot of labels where either I kind of went through them and cataloged them as I bought them and kind of threw the paper away, or some of the bigger labels like Decca, Columbia, Capitol, RCA, I never really spent the time to really keep track of everything I had on those labels. So we're kind of going through those labels. I went through Liberty yesterday. There's just so many labels where there's jazz titles mixed in that they're sparse. The whole discography is not jazz, so I didn't print off the whole discography. So I'm just listing with the stuff I have. And it comes in handy in a lot of ways. A, it's a great teaching tool to write stuff down. B, it just helps you know when you're looking for something. Do I have this? Oh, I go look at the cabinets and flip. Or I can just pull up my binder and be, okay, yeah, I know I do have that one. And it's good to do both, because both ways remind you of things and teach you things. And it's cool to pull out the records in that era and they all see what was around that album. But it's also cool to flip in that binder and just be like, yeah, okay, there it is right there. I thought I had that. So in doing so, I've discovered a few more labels have passed the 100 titles mark. And I think there's going to be another one that I passed today that's going to reach 100 titles as well, which would make 17 or 18 labels that I have at least 100 titles by. And I'm sure most you can guess most of them. And a lot of labels just never made that many records. Roost, I have the entire discography and got 81 records. But it's an interesting list to look at, and we're going to talk about that more in a second here. So yeah, we're going through these labels and cataloging some stuff, and a few just passed the 100 mark. And of course, the most I have, I think, is 600 by Prestige, 570 Verves, and just over 500 Blue Notes. Those are the three biggest ones. Riverside's just over 400. And there's a number of labels in the 200 and 300 range as well. I mean, there's 17 or 18 labels over 100. So I was wondering if you guys wanted to guess at what labels that is that makes it over 100. There's a lot of great labels that don't quite get there. And the question I have also is, what's going to be my next one to get to 100? And that one, I think, will probably be Jubilee. I have probably 85 Jubilees. There's probably another 20 or 25 or so to get. And I'll probably fill those all in. I don't really search for those titles that are left. I just grab them when I'm in a store, and like on an eBay store or like Discogs, and I'm buying something from a seller, and I go through his old records, and he's got a couple old Jubilees, maybe I'll grab them, especially if the price is right. I won't pay $40 for an old Jubilee, but I'll pay $4. It's interesting just to get all that perspective on what a label was doing and how they were trying to make money and how and or why they failed or were successful. I love the Jubilee covers of the late 50s. They're just a lot of cheesecake and a lot of wonderful color photography with just fun stuff. They're really cool covers. So yeah, anybody who wants to take a stab at guessing the 17 or 18 labels that I now have 100 titles by, put that in the comments. We'll see who gets the closest. And I don't know if anybody can get all 18. Maybe I'll send them a t-shirt. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I mean, we'll see if anybody wants to even try to guess. I've already given you, obviously, a lot of them. So if anybody wants to see if they can get all 18, feel free to try. I know a couple of the guys from the Jazz Bomb conversation. We talked about this last Friday. And thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate that. It's always fun to chat with you guys. I can't always stay as long as I would like. Me and the wife don't get a lot of time together as it is right now. So when she is home and I'm not open at the cafe, we need to kind of have our time together. And but she wasn't home last Friday, which was nice in terms of being able to join the Jazz Bomb conversation for a while. But then my dog kept beating on the door saying, let me come play. I want to come play with you, Dad. Because the husky gets locked up all day, either outside or, by locked up, I mean she's in the rest of the house aside from the cafe. But you know how animals are, especially cats. The only room they want to be in is the one they're not supposed to be in. We have 4 cats in this house, and it's a big space. It's 4,000 square feet. But I have to lock the 4 cats up, especially 2 of them, in the bathroom and office upstairs, which is still a pretty big space. But if not, they'll be at the door scratching and meowing the whole time. Kind of, we want to come in, Dad. Can we come in? Come on, let us in. And that would be annoying for customers, so they have to go away. Interesting thing about cats and dogs. I was laying with my dog the other day on the bed, playing with her, scratching her, rubbing her belly and stuff, and she was, snuffling and snarkling and doing all the things that big dogs do. And it's funny how all big dogs are fairly similar in makeup and personality. And it was like as close to something that was verbatim from my childhood as I remembered it as anything ever was. Playing with that big dog reminded me of playing with my shepherds and my collies as a kid. Exact same experience. And I play with my dog all the time, but it was just kind of this realization, like, man, this is one of the things in my life that hasn't changed. Dogs haven't changed. Dogs are still dogs, which is pretty cool. Maybe if they had the internet, they wouldn't be still so cool. But cats, on the other hand, I've had probably 24 cats in my lifetime, lived with a bunch of them. I've never met 2 cats that are the same. All 4 of my cats are as different as the day is long, which is a weird thing. They're small little creatures, but gosh, they're all independent and they're all their own creature. They have zero assimilation, zero I want to be like conform to my crowd. They each have their own way of interacting with the world and with people. And when you win a dog over, she loves your whole family. You win a cat over, only you get that love. I don't care about your wife, your kids, your children. It doesn't matter. They all have to earn it individually themselves. I'm not just going to assume that, because I love you, I'm going to love everybody in this house. It doesn't work that way. I used to have this little orange cat called Booter Scooters. And when my stepkids moved in, she never got to liking those 2. Never. And they would come down the stairs and she would lunge at them and they would freak out and fall down the stairs. And she would just take great joy in lunging at them from behind furniture. And she was just a little thing. But boy, she was possessive and aggressive of her apartment that she considered hers and not theirs. Cats are pretty funny. So guess at those labels, see what you can come up with. I think it'll be a fun little challenge for y'all. I mean, if you watch over this channel for any length of time, some of you should be able to get pretty close. You know what eras I'm into. Again, it's just kind of a fun little exercise. And I'll have the actual details for you probably my next episode when I'm done chronologizing and writing down and notating all the stuff that I haven't done yet, which is making my binder for my labels even thicker. My personal artist discography binder is so thick it's barely bursting at the seams, but now my discography one's getting almost that thick as well with all the labels I've put in there, adding in things like DG and Discovery and Esoteric and, like I said, Liberty I did yesterday, and a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And the cafe gives me that time to kind of, during the slow times, put a label and kind of go through it and sort it all out. And I mean, like, all my Blue Notes have been like that for years, but slowly by surely you kind of go through all those labels and try to get them all as organized as you can, which allows the understanding of that label's history even better. So we'll give you that update next episode, I'm pretty sure. Any of y'all want to take a crack at it, please feel free to do so. Y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.